Welcome to the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, nonprofit founder, storyteller, and lifelong helper. For more than a decade, I've been amplifying the voices of modern day heroes, people who solve real problems with heart and courage and service. As we launch season 10 and celebrate over 100 episodes, we continue our mission of helping the helpers, reminding the world that meaningful change happens one small act of kindness at a time. Did you know that 1 out of 4 children can't see? That they need glasses? Today's guest, Gianny Cardenas, is no stranger to this fact. I am so excited to have Gianny join us as the founder of The Power of Sight to share his incredible journey of service and our inspiring conversation about what he's doing to make a significant difference in the world. I'm so excited today to have the founder of Power of Sight, Gianny Cardenas. Thank you, Gianny, for being here today. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited and opportunity to be here.
We are so excited to dive into all of this, and nothing makes me happier than really having these conversations that just inspire people, inform people, educate people of all the amazing things that are happening in our world that people just don't know about. So why don't we just dive right in, and why don't you tell us what Power of Sight does?
You got it. So Power Sight, it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization, right? So we are a faith-based organization and we bring optometry vision services to the community. So we're a mobile nonprofit.
Oh, nice. You guys have wheels. I love that. That is amazing. And so I always say, you don't just wake up and start a nonprofit. There's a lot of things that happen along the
Oh yeah.
way. But why don't we start kind of at the beginning? If you look back to either your family or role models or something, just when you were younger, was there any early seeds or any people that maybe showed you a path of giving back?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, I look back in my own journey, right? And I've been in the optical world for over 20 years, believe it or
You
not.
don't look old enough.
It was actually one of my first jobs out of high school, when I was going to college still, was working at a corporate office at a optometry practice. So I worked there part-time, and the corporate office wasn't as busy as like the private practices that I worked at in the future, but my manager at the time, I remember he was trying to find something for me to do. And they work with a local organization called Lions Club that will give out these
Right,
vouchers for free eye exams. And each corporate office had a list of people they had to contact. So no one wanted to do it. No one wanted to be on the phone. No one wanted to call these people. So he said, "Hey, Gianni, can you go ahead and start calling these people? This is now your task. Every time you come in part time, spend like 2 or 3 hours just calling these people and schedule their appointments." And just
right.
hearing like their excitement when I would call, like, "Hey, you're up. You're
Oh,
next. Like your child's next. We got this list from Lions Club. We have the voucher. You can redeem it. Let's make you an appointment." But listening to their like how excited they were, I didn't know like it was actually impacting me like 20 years back, right?
right.
So it was
Because you
just,
look in the rearview mirror and things look a little bit different sometimes, right?
oh yeah, 100%. So but it stuck with me, right? I remember how excited like the moms and dads or grandmas were to bring their child in for a free eye exam and glasses through this organization. And then fast forward, I got licensed through the medical board. I finished college. My whole career, I thought I was gonna be like some type of law enforcement or because my degree is in criminal justice, and I never
Oh,
used the degree.
wow.
So I always thought I was gonna be somewhere and I ended up in the optical world because I was I interviewed for this private practice, and he gave me an opportunity and I became the general manager there. And then I didn't know at the time, but he actually was a founder for another organization called Vosh, which is like an international mission that does vision care.
Right.
And he kind of took me under his wing and he started showing me around. We started doing missions together. He told me if I can
And
help
how
him.
old were you when
Oh my God.
were you just out of college just doing this with him
Yeah, I was
or
like maybe 23 years old. I'm 38 now, but I was like 23 years old at the time.
okay.
And he
Wow.
and he asked me if I can start helping him plan domestic missions. So no, some not so much the international work I did with him, but I did domestic
Right.
here in San Fernando Valley, LA County, and
Okay.
that really pulled on my heartstrings too, right? Like
Right.
seeing the impact that we can do. Um, so once I got to the point where I was like, okay, I love this. This is really what I want to do. This was like in back in 2014, 2015, but I never really pull the plug. I never really like just went for it.
Well, right, because people don't just say, I'm going to start a business that does this just because you volunteer or you're doing something. I mean, there's, over 1.6 million nonprofits, but not everybody decides, oh, I'm going to just, I love helping people with this vision. I love giving them eyeglasses. I love being a part of this. Doesn't mean you're going to start an organization.
Yeah.
Usually something bigger happens.
Hmm.
And usually there is a very clear moment. And almost every person I've interviewed could say the moment where they knew they had to take either a volunteer, a passion, or whatever, and turn turn the table, turn the direction of their life, and do act on creating this. So talk to me about your moment. So you're doing missions with this guy, and
Hmm.
then when did that shift to like I need to start Power of Sight? Like what were the steps in between?
Yeah, no, so you're right. There was like some suffering, and that's what really catapulted me to get it going. So I didn't realize God was pulling my heartstrings all these years and preparing me. But in 2016, unfortunately, my mom she passed away. She got killed in a car accident. She was actually one of 13 people that passed away in a bus crash, believe it or not.
Uh, and mine
Yeah,
was a bus crash too, right? I lost my mom in a bus crash, and
yeah.
it was
So
four people, not 13. I'm so sorry. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
thank you. So, she was like, like any mother, right? The backbone of the family. We were close knit. I talked to her just the day before. I still listen to voicemails that she would call me every day, make sure we're good. And
Mm.
and she got to meet all three of her grandchildren. Well, I have three daughters, but it,
Oh,
but even being around my wife, my kids, and trying to move life forward, it was very difficult, right?
yeah.
Around me, it was weird. It was like everything was back to normal for everyone else, but for me, I was like in this little bubble, right, of
Well,
grief
it's grief,
yeah,
and I always say to people, I've had people ask to describe it, and I said it's kind of like you have an old school video camera, and you're standing there at a party or at work or in a normal day part of your life, and moments it just like zooms in and you're like, what am I doing here? Like I am and my brain is in another place. I'm not at work.
right,
I'm not at a party.
yeah,
I'm thinking about the person I love. And then other moments it zooms out and you're like, oh, I'm at the office. I got to get
yeah.
this done. And it flashes, it zooms in and out and you're like, and it's just grief coming and going, coming and going. It's difficult to function, right?
That's the perfect way to describe it. And everyone copes with different. Like I have three siblings, and everyone coped with it a little differently. And unfortunately, I took a negative route, you can say, right? Like I was trying to numb things, and trying to understand. I never really questioned God, but everything you can think of, because I fell into depression. I was feeling anxious, and stuff like when I lost someone so tragically. Uh,
Right.
Everything you can
And
think of.
it's so unexpected that
Oh yeah,
it's a lightning bolt. That phone call is just something that never leaves you, right?
yeah. Unfortunately, not. But everything you can think of, I tried. Acupuncturist, therapist. They
Mm,
tried to put me on medication. Aromatherapy. All my friends were just like, I knew there was something wrong with me. I just didn't know how to fix it, right? And it
right.
wasn't
But grief
until
is not something wrong with you. It's
yeah,
just the pain that you have to process, which is
true.
the more you love, the more pain you have, right? The deeper the
Absolutely.
pain.
So at that time, I actually got closer to God. I actually called an old friend of mine, old pastor from a city we used to live in, and I haven't spoken to him for years, but my wife suggested it. She's like, you should talk to him. He's like a counselor, a spiritual father, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So I reached out to him, and yeah, he met with me. He met with me in person, and he started sharing like personal things with his life. And I could see his strategy. He wanted me to open up to him, which we did. We actually became really good friends, and he really helped me. He really helped me, like, was through scripture, through prayer, to pull me out of that deep hole. And I can say honestly, it wasn't like my willpower, it wasn't my trying to do better. It was actually like God's grace on me, right? I felt like His forgiveness, I felt peace,
Right.
and He just pulled me out of that hole. And that was like kind of like the turning point for me, where I was like, man, I feel so much better. I feel peace. I feel love. I don't even know how to describe it, but like trees look different, people look different, like everything just like look
Well, I
different
think,
to me.
yeah, I would say when you come through grief, and this is just my perspective, it's
Mhm,
like we have a special pair of glasses where
mhm,
we have clarity on what matters,
mhm.
and we appreciate like a sunset, or we appreciate
Yes.
something beautiful like a tree that we would not have ever noticed before. And now
Mhm.
we have this appreciation for life and the people in it, and it's a tectonic shift, like
It
what
is.
happens within us, at least for me, and obviously for you,
Mhm.
tectonic. I think some people just go back to the old way and some people don't, but I think most people experience it or change forever, right?
Absolutely. It was definitely like a radical change for me, and it was just so different, and I would just like see the world differently, and I just care more about relationships, spending more time with my dad, my daughters, my wife, and those time with them was like more valuable to me than
Right,
before,
right.
and also
Of
seeing other
course.
people and like seeing people like struggle and stuff like that. So it just kind of opened up like this whole thing that God did in my mind and my eyes, and so.
So how much longer was this between you losing your mom and deciding to start Power of Sight? Was it a couple of years, a few years?
It took me a while, to be honest with you. Like, it took me like 2 or 3 years of
Hmm.
counseling and
Right,
going through the process in order for me to feel like what I'm expressing now. It does take time, for any listeners that are going through something, just one day at a time. I didn't know what it was
100%.
gonna be like in a year, but I knew if I can just do improvement one day at a time,
Right,
it
right.
compounds. So
So
it
was there a moment when you decided you needed to do this? Was there
when
a
I,
clear moment?
There was, yeah. So I felt so much better, and I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I told my wife Adriana, I told her we're having dinner. I was like, I always had in the back of my head that I want to start this nonprofit. Why don't we do a faith-based organization, bring it to our church, which was that pastor. We actually started going back to his church, and we're
Right,
like, and this will be a way to evangelize, to bring people to the church. The people do, churches do food banks, they do grief counseling, marriage counseling, they do all these things to bring people in. I was like, why don't we provide like a vision care services? And there's plenty of time. If you had an eye exam, from the check-in time to the waiting room to the pre-testing, seeing a doctor, there's plenty of time to evangelize in between. So I was like, why
right,
don't we do like a faith-based organization? Everything that I know is just basically optical, but I brought it with my
right.
spiritual faith, and then we would team up with churches, and we started our local church, and all we had was glasses that were people, my friend donated to me, just brand new frames. No
Right.
lab, no doctors, not what you see online right now. It was just 100 pairs of glasses, and I would just
And
tell
what
people
year was this? What year was this?
2020
Oh, oh, wow.
COVID year. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that just segues right perfectly into my next question, because I think you might have just answered it. Because
Mhm.
when we're starting a business
Mhm.
that relies on the kindness of others, and there are a lot of challenges, and you still have kids, you
Yeah.
still have a day job, you still have bills and life and laundry and stuff you got to deal with. So,
Mhm.
what were some of the challenges in starting this in 2020? Again, I think I'm answering my own question, but talk to me about some of the struggles.
No, yeah, definitely. Obviously, when things started opening up a little bit towards the end of 2020, that's when we were able to be a little bit more active, during that COVID year.
Right,
Um, for me, even starting like a corporate job or private practice, what was really difficult for me was me and my wife trying to find like a balance. Like, people talk about work-life balance, but it really is
right,
what your family feels, what work-life balance is for your family, what works for your family, right?
right,
So, I would travel a lot, and I would would work long hours in a private practice or corporate office, and in my mind, I was like, I got to move up the corporate ladder. Um, but when things shifted, and now I'm here with this organization I'm trying to start, my wife was like, she's my best friend. She helped me start the organization. Until this day, we work together and we travel so much throughout LA County that we actually homeschool our daughters because we take them with us. They have to be with us by default.
Wow.
So working with my wife and my kids has been a huge blessing.
That is incredible.
Mhm.
So you guys are going to mobile clinics, but you still are working, you still have a full-time job and you're running a nonprofit. So talk to me about, what fuels you because life can be hard and overwhelming uh and we don't do this for the money. We don't do this work um, to get rich. But when life is tough and you're doing a day job and your kids are homeschooled and you're juggling your family and you're juggling all the things you're juggling, how do you keep what keeps you going? What fuels you to keep going? What are the moments in your work at Power of Sight that make you say, I gotta push forward. I gotta keep going.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So obviously, for me, because I'm religious, it's my faith in God, and God gave me the strength to do it. Just looking back, when we first started, I wasn't planning to be this busy, right? Like we were thinking about doing one event a month. That's it. It's
Right?
about 50 people, free pairs of glasses. That's it. But it blossomed to this thing where we have staff, we have doctors, we have 25 doctors in our team. We contract with different school districts now. We have donors, sponsors. So in the short amount of time that we started, it's grown so much, but I wasn't expecting that growth, right? I was working full time. I still am, but thank to God that my wife was with me since the beginning. She understands like the operations and the staffing and controlling
Right.
volunteers and all that stuff. So she's helped me quite a bit on that end, where it still allows me to work my full-time job. Because my bosses will kill me if I leave now. But so I'm trying to figure out what's the best work-life balance for us now. But it's
Right.
definitely going to the route where it may be Power Side full-time soon because we're getting so busy. The demand's so big.
Wow. Well, and it's something that, most nonprofit founders that I've interviewed, they start out thinking if I can just help one child, if I
Yeah.
can just help one. When I was part of a group that started a nonprofit at Children's Hospital to provide chaplains of all faiths, um, we just thought if we could help one child, then this is worth it, right? But then what happens is we are our own best and worst enemy, and
Yeah.
that one child becomes 10, becomes 20, becomes 30, and we keep raising the bar. We know we can do more, we can do better, we can, and it just keeps growing whether we want it to or not, which is a beautiful thing, but it's tricky. So talk to me
Yeah.
about your success and your impact. Impact. We as nonprofit founders, we have to write grants, or we have to tell donors how many people we've served, how many volunteer hours, all these statistics that we give people for impact. And sometimes those statistics are impact, but sometimes impact is when you think of a child that can't see, who can
Mhm.
now do their homework and now read and now function in the world, that's an impact that's immeasurable. So
Yeah.
talk to me what impact looks like to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, first thought is in the last 5 years that we've been active as a 501(c)(3), even though I have experience prior, but
Right.
officially on paper, we helped 20,000 people. We made 20,000 pairs of glasses in 5 years.
Wow.
And and
Wow.
and to me, that was like a huge milestone because I never thought we'll be giving out that many free pairs of glasses. But you're
Wow.
right, we helped that one child. Like, you understand as a nonprofit founder too, there's so much involved, right? Because I took the school of hard knocks. I had no idea what a nonprofit was or how to start it, right?
Nobody does, by the way, Gianni. Nobody does. Welcome to the club.
I had a good friend that was a pastor at a large church, you can say, and he had an attorney on his board, and he connected me with him. He was a nonprofit attorney, and he helped me establish my bylaws, articles, the 501(c)(3, the tax exemption, set up my board. all those steps that are required, right, prior. But
Right.
then when I started getting into the school districts, just like, there's so, I mean, if you're in the hospitals, there's so much insurance involved. I wasn't even sure if we're gonna get donors or sponsors to cover all these costs. A lot of it was coming out of my pocket. I have a mortgage and stuff, and I was
Right.
paying for all these insurance premiums, and to be in schools with minors, it's quite expensive. And I told my wife,
Right.
like, it's just money. Let's just go ahead and spend the money, and God's gonna provide. Let's just by faith. But I remember one particular case where we went to a school, and my dad, obviously he's a widow now, and he by default he goes with me too. He's retired, and he loves going setting up with me, and it gives him purpose too, right, to be with me,
Oh,
and give a
right.
good
Right.
impact the world what together as a family. But I remember that he came out to me that there was a little girl that reminded one of his granddaughters, one of my daughters, like about their age. And he told me, hey, like this little girl, she just had an exam. She has like a -10. It's her first exam ever, which is, if you know prescriptions, is really thick. Like, she can't really see
Right.
the world. And the mother was crying that she would like to get a backup pair. And my dad asked me, and I was like, yeah, of course, let's just make her two pairs, no problem.
Right.
So we made her two pairs, and the mom was just hugging my dad and just crying. And I actually saw my dad emotional, which I haven't seen him emotional since like my mom passing. Like it's like the only time in my
Oh,
life I see emotional when she passed. And then I see him
right.
at that moment. So when we got home that day, we were really tired. And I told my wife, I was like, you know what? Going through that attorney and getting the 501(c)(3), the insurances, and hoping and praying that we get something. It was all to help that little girl. It was all worth it.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's you when we have a tiny cog in making someone just a tiny cog in the wheel of affecting someone's life, that's how we get paid, right?
Yeah.
That's the fuel. That's what fuels us to do it. There's no greater feeling, right, than knowing that somehow you help somebody else. It's the best feeling in the world. And just going a little bit off, but I'm just curious, do you think that serving people helped heal your grief? Do you think it gave your grief a little bit more um, purpose? Do you feel like you had a little more purpose in your life, and that it might have turned some of that pain into purpose in doing this work?
I definitely do, and I feel like putting other people before me and focusing on that has helped me a lot. And I wasn't planning for that. It was just something I wanted to share with the world, but it
Right,
has helped me. It was basically like my own therapy in a way, right? But
right,
it has helped.
right. Because I talk about it. I do a lot of public speaking, and I talk about it a lot because I kind of think service is a silver bullet. There's no pill or there's no anything that makes life better when you lose someone you love. But when you help somebody else, everything gets better. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter if it's because you're grieving or because you're upset about something else. Life just shifts when you help somebody.
yeah,
And I just love hearing those stories. So
yeah.
you're obviously an entrepreneur because you started this Power of Sight. So if you could dream any dream for Power of Sight, what does that look like? What's the big dream?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So just to kind of explain why we're in the school districts in a moment, and this will
Yes.
explain my
Yeah.
dream in the
Yeah.
future. And I'll explain what our program does. So we basically go into the school districts and we screen the entire student body. So if there's
Wow.
1,000 kids, 2,000 kids, high school doesn't matter. We send a team and we're there for multiple days screening the entire student body first. So we do a pass or fail for visual acuities, right? We check their vision for far, near, and color.
Right.
In California, there's certain grades are mandated, but we do those and all the other grades in between. So we don't want to leave anybody
Wow.
behind. So we screen them. And we know, statistically speaking, from the CDC and other studies out there, that 1 in 4 are going to fail. So 25% of that student body are going to fail the vision screening. So
Wow.
we take that 25%, and then we get the appropriate amount of doctors that are required to examine those students that fail, whether it's 100 or 200, 300. We
Okay.
have doctors come out. We can have one up to 10 exam lanes, we call them, which is like exam rooms we can set up in classrooms. And we can
Right.
see that many amount of students. And we try to do it all in one day. It's a big taking because sometimes we're only in that city one time. So, and
And
then
are
what makes
they are and are they low income students or are they just any schools, or how do you decide the school? How does that kind of
So,
work?
so they're all Title One schools, so low
Okay,
income. So just
right,
for example, LAUSD is the second largest school district in the nation. When I had a meeting with
right.
them, Department of Healthcare Services mentioned during the meeting that 85% of LAUSD students are on Medi-Cal. And
Wow,
out of those 85%, only 15% have ever used their vision benefits ever in their life.
wow,
So there's a
wow.
big population of students right now that are undiagnosed, untreated. So they're sending us to specific schools, Title One schools, where they know the biggest population are Medi-Cal, and so we're going there to service those kids. They're at a safe zone in their school.
Right,
And what makes us very, very unique from other organizations may do similar work is that we actually have a mobile lab. So that not only do they get the exam, the exam, they choose their frame, and we actually manufacture there on the spot. So they get to go back to class with their glasses on,
oh my gosh, the same day.
same day.
Wow, how come we have to wait so long to get our classes? That is incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
And I think there's also something. I run a youth leadership organization and I deal with sixth graders through college students. And really um the strength of peers is the power of peers is huge. So
Yeah.
what's so beautiful about that is that if everyone's showing up back to class with glasses on,
Yeah.
it's now cool, fun, acceptable. It's not like
Absolutely.
one kid shows up one day and they're like, "Oh, you're four eyes" or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, everybody walks in with their new glasses, and all of a sudden, everybody wants glasses, right? Or it's so there's something very cool about that. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's so many studies that show that academics improve, self-confidence. Some students in their studies that show they read even a grade higher now that they can see the board. And
Wow,
there's so many cool studies, and it's simple pair of glasses that may sound. There's a huge infrastructure behind it, right, to provide that simple pair of glasses.
absolutely.
And we're
It
blessed
makes
that we're
total
able to do it.
sense.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible. So tell me, talk to me about the dream.
So my dream is actually to be in every school district in California, and then expand
Wow.
nationwide. Our program is scalable, right? It's not, once we have the doctors, the equipment in place, we can scale this and we can help so many children with vision care. That's really my goal. And just to touch on that a little bit, I just want to go back a little bit
Yeah.
about our mobile lab. We also do community events, right? We open it to the families, adults as well. Most recently, a year ago in January, we mobilized our units. We were the first ones to mobilize in Altadena, Pacific Palisades
Oh,
during the
for the
wildfires.
fires. Oh, I love that.
Not knowing what to expect, all I did was call the YMCA's, which is one of our partners, if I can use their buildings to host these large scale events. And
Right.
I sent an e-blast to this network of doctors. And in a 6-day clinic between both cities, we had 40 doctors volunteer, and
Wow. I just got the chills. Oh my God,
thank
I
you.
love that.
And we helped 1,200 people, and we made 1,200 pairs of glasses on the spot. We
Because
didn't.
they left without their glasses and they
Mhm,
lost everything. I mean, I live in Pasadena, so
mhm.
I'm very intimate with what was going on. And they left with nothing. I mean, they didn't grab their glasses, they ran for their lives. I mean, it was that people weren't thinking about, or they have contacts and they didn't grab their other contacts, so now they need glasses. I
Yep.
mean, oh my God, Gianna, that's so beautiful. I love that. I honestly wouldn't have even thought about that.
Yeah, we
Like it
we
wouldn't
didn't.
even, and when I evacuated, I did evacuate. I didn't
Mhm.
grab contacts. I didn't
Yeah.
grab anything. I grabbed my dog and I grabbed a couple things, some pictures, and we left. Like,
That's it. Yeah, I know. When we met with the Red Cross about a month later, they told us that there's donations coming in for clothes, food, and all these amazing things from around the world for people. But the number one request from an internal survey from the Red Cross from evacuees was vision care. They,
yeah,
like you mentioned, their
wow.
contacts and glasses got burned. They couldn't fill out FEMA paperwork. Students that were homeschooling, they lost their glasses, were having
Or like I wouldn't
difficulties.
even know. I mean, I do know my prescription. I mean, I know, roughly what it is, but a lot of
Mhm.
people don't. Like you get
Mhm.
your glasses, you put them on, you don't necessarily know, oh, I'm a 150, 425 or whatever. You don't know that,
Right.
which is what I am, by the way.
Yeah.
Fingertip
But
with
yeah,
the left eye, but
But it was a huge blessing. And I didn't know at the time. All I did, it was my wife's birthday when it
Wow,
started, January 7th. I remember the day exactly. And
me
then
too.
the 2 days later, we were out there already at the YMCA setting up, doing these clinics.
Amazing. I love that. Well, thank you on
Mhm.
behalf of my community in Pasadena and Altadena. Thank you for that. And not only everything else. I mean, that's incredible. So talk to me about there's a lot of life lessons in all of this, in the grief, in the loss, in the service, in the faith. There's a lot. There's probably a whole other podcast just on some of the lessons you've learned on this journey since 2016. But talk to me about some of them that you think have really stayed with you, some things you've learned since you've started this work.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think for me, the most important thing was like communication, right? Because I used to hide behind the scenes, manufacture glasses, and I do sales and I do run an office now. But I feel like in this type of work, it's important to communicate and not just like my grieving process, like to talk to someone how I felt and get it off my chest, like
Right,
talk therapy. But also now
right,
my non-profit world, it's important to communicate. I didn't realize there's gonna be so many politics and involved like politicians and stuff in the nonprofit world.
welcome.
Yeah. So, I
Called
just met
dealing
like
with people. Dealing with people.
yeah,
You've got
dealing
to
with
just
people, right? And,
right,
and and I love the support. Like, I met with like a congresswoman just last week. And just to put our story out there, communicate is very important,
right,
and I tell people that now, like there's young entrepreneurs or people in my family that are going into the real world, and I tell them, look, you have to communicate with people and explain to them what you're doing. Otherwise, my niece is an engineer. She loves being in her little cubicle and designing. I was like, if your boss or your peers don't know what you're doing, you're only as good as, whatever the
right,
paper says,
right.
but you got to communicate, you got to talk to people, what we're doing today. So that was one of the biggest lessons for me was just to kind of put myself out there and communicate.
It's a
But like
great.
again, like through my grieving, personal and also for the business aspect.
Right. Well, and really one of the big jobs we have as founders is telling our story, which
Mhm.
by the way, yours is not on your website. Your about is not on your website. So, and I think that because we're so focused on the work and on other people, the
Mhm.
last person that we talk about is ourselves, which is
Sure.
why we're having these conversations so that people can hear the story. But when we're going to a group of donors or we're going to meet with a bunch of people to ask for partnerships or support, they want to know our story, right? They want to know why we do this. They want to know why we care. They want to know what happened that we're doing this. And I think that there's so much power in these stories because people connect to stories. That's how we learn about each other. That's how we connect to each other. And I think that your story is so beautiful and inspiring. And that's what we have to tell our story over and over and over
I
in a
love that.
fundraising space, right?
Yeah, no, this is great. I'm gonna by next week you'll see it on my website.
Yeah,
Again.
about. We need an about section drop down
Mhm.
about you guys, what you do, you have your mission and what your personal story is behind it because it really is so inspiring. So talk to me about how you think you've changed in all of this journey.
For me, the change happened before I even started the nonprofit. The radical change. And my faith growing and really receiving God's like peace, like that was really, really changed me prior to me starting the nonprofit. But now looking at what we created, my nieces work for me. We have doctors that work for us and things like that. And then being responsible for like their families and what they're providing for their families has really changed the way I do things. I want to be really transparent, everything by the book. I hired the right professionals to help me because I know I don't know everything, accountants, CPAs.
You never can. We
Yeah,
never can know everything, Gianni.
yeah, exactly. So that to me, like that responsibility, I don't take it as pressure. I just feel like it's a blessing that we can do this for these families. So that's really changed the way how we do things and having our board and being very transparent has been a blessing.
I love that. So tell me how we can donate, support, volunteer, help you All of it. Like talk to me. How can we support Power of Sight in all you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. So our website, would be a good resource, thepowerofsight.org. There's a tab there if you want to volunteer. We have flyers of our community events on our website. And if it's something nearby you want to volunteer, you can just send us an email there. If you want to increase our impact, to provide a child or even a whole school district or just a school, with vision care, you can do that as well through our website, or you can send a message and I'll actually receive it, or one of my team members, and I'll respond. Mhm.
I love that. Gianni, thank you for all you're doing. 20,000 pairs of glasses. I mean, you're still a baby in the nonprofit space. I mean,
Yes.
you're you're 6 years old. You're just starting. So I can only imagine with all the beautiful vision you're going to be giving to so many people. So thank you for sharing your vision and your story with us. And we're so excited to support Power of Sight. And this has just been fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say I'm the perfect example that God can use anybody. So thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Gianni. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I so enjoyed my conversation with Gianni and learning how their work is truly changing lives. His insight on faith and service is something I'll be thinking about long after our conversation. But if you'd like to learn more about Gianni and other modern day heroes, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. And if this episode inspired you, please share it with someone you care about, someone who needs to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps these stories to reach and touch more hearts. But more than anything, thank you for caring, for believing in goodness, and for being a part of our Charity Matters community. You are exactly what the world needs more of. Remember, together, we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. Charity